Hey, look, Callahan, Johnny was a major drugs user, and I predicted he'd die this year, but that's all I did. Don't you get it? The whole idea is to pick celebrities who aren't going to make it because they're old, or because they're sick, or because they're in a high-risk profession, like police work.
That's Clint Eastwood, and when he's wearing a sport jacket and a holster in San Francisco, he's usually playing the most famous cop in the world, Dirty Harry Callahan. And that's the case in the Deadpool, the 5th Dirty Harry movie, and one of 5 new films we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is named The Deadpool, and this is the 5th and I think one of the wittiest and most offbeat of all of the Dirty Harry movies, starring an older and more bitter but also wiser Detective Harry Callahan, who has become very disillusioned about the way that television news cameras invade private lives. In the film, Dirty Harry once again seems to have an instinct for walking right straight into trouble, as in this scene in San Francisco's Chinatown, with Evan Kim as his new Chinese-American partner.
Everybody on the train, come on! Hurry up! Don't move! Come on, you guys, hurry up!
You forgot your fortune cookie.
What?
Face down! Face down!
You got them? You got them?
Get on him! Come on! Let's go!
The plot of the movie involves attempts on Harry's life by a major gangster who is in prison. Harry finds a way to convince the bad guy to lower the price on his head.
I'm going to be sending him a letter once a week. And I'm going to be telling him how I'm going to be looking in on his sick mother and how I'm trying to get him special privileges here at the prison. And you know what's the interesting part? The interesting part is if anything happens to me and Hicks doesn't get his letter, he's going to be really pissed off and he's going to come down here and see you because you're the mailman.
In one of the movie's funniest sequences, the famous car chase in Bullet is parodied when Harry's car is chased by a tiny model car that has plastic explosives inside. Harry's romantic interest in the film is a local TV anchorwoman played by Patricia Clarkson. She seduces him because she wants to do a profile on his life.
I don't like people going around saying they're going to kill me. And more than that, I don't like journalists who are trying to raise their ratings on the fact that they might succeed.
I was going to ask you.
That's the end of the story.
The title of the Deadpool comes from a betting pool about which names in a list of celebrities are going to be the first to die. And of course, in San Francisco, Harry Callahan's name is right there on the list. That leads to the usual Dirty Harry action as various celebrities do die in the movie. But what's new about this film is the way it weaves both television news and violent movies into its plot itself, as a famous horror movie director becomes one of the suspects in those Deadpool murders. This is a wittier and more thoughtful movie than the reputation of the Dirty Harry series might lead you to suspect, and I liked it in more different ways than I expected.
I agree with you absolutely. It's very easy to say that this is the best Dirty Harry film since the original film, which is a classic of all time. I think that the script is very intricate. I enjoyed it just the way you did. The chase scene, the parody of that chase scene had me laughing all the way through it. I love the shots with the car going over, you know, the little itty-bitty car just going over the hill, and then, you know, see the sparks coming off of it. That was funny. He is in character. He didn't throw away this film. Sometimes in the Dirty Harry series, I felt that he had sort of a disdain for this character that made him so popular. I think he's enjoying playing Dirty Harry. Maybe this is the last time. Maybe this is the swan song. If it is, it's fine because he really gives this character his due.
You know, there's one thing that trivia fans might want to remember about this film. In every single Dirty Harry movie, there was at least one line that becomes his trademark.
Yeah,
like, go ahead, make my day.
Right.
And the thing this time is he comes up with a line you can't say on television.
I know.
Maybe he's trying to make you have to go to see the movie to figure out what his trademark is. I don't know. But it's a fun movie.
It's a lot of fun, and of course, after his first killing in the film, there is the twitch.
Oh, yeah, that twitch.
I love that twitch.
You know, as I was watching this film, I realized I've gotten to know this character so well that, for example, when they call him in, you know, and he's called on the carpet, that's like, it's a part of a ritual of American movies. Okay, Harry, you've damaged 6 squad cars. You're back to the desk again. And we think, oh, yeah, that's true.
No, he ranks with the all-time great characters. Our next film is called Phantasm II. This ranks with one of the worst movies of all time. It's the sequel to the disgusting but popular 1979 horror film about a young girl having visions of an evil tall man whose weapons include a flying silver ball with razors and a power drill, perfect for skewing someone's head. Well, we'll just show you the beginning of this scene where the ball slices a clergyman's ear off. The rest is too disgusting.
What's that sound? You stay here.
Also chased by the ball are the 2 leads of the film. Rare is the movie where a weapon has more charisma than the leading actor. Let's get this straight real quick. You take that silver ball out of the Phantasm movies, you don't have a movie. The movie is a jumble of fantasy sequences and real dangers. It's a mess as a script, and again, the only thing it has to sell is the silver weapon ball, and that's maybe for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes of screen time. I would surely hate to see someone be suckered in to seeing Phantasm II just to see a silver ball drill a hole into someone's forehead.
I've seen, goodness knows, I've seen a lot of bad films in my time, but this one made me as angry as any I've seen, because the movie and the movie makers didn't even bother to make the effort to try to do something worth seeing. They use a manipulation of script that is the oldest trick in horror movies, which is every door that opens has somebody behind it. Every moment that something doesn't happen, that's so that something will happen. Every time you get in a car, somebody's in the back seat. Every time you go around a corner, somebody's there, and without logic. Without logic. And the cop-out of the fact that it's all a nightmare is exactly that. It's people too lazy to write characters and to write a plot. So all you have are the special effects coming in and various body parts flying around and various graves being opened. It's not a movie. It's essentially an exercise in the ego of special effects people.
Well, it's an exercise in the desire to make money off a sequel. Coming up next, Midnight Run with Robert De Niro as a bounty hunter who can collect $100,000 if he can get his captive from New York to Los Angeles in just 5 days.
You guys are the dumbest bounty hunters I've ever seen!
A Midnight Run, and this one is a real surprise, a cross-country chase picture that's filled not only with action, but also with a lot of humor, and also with some surprisingly tender insights into human nature. The movie stars Robert De Niro as an ex-cop who's become a bounty hunter for a bail bondsman. And as the movie opens, FBI man Yaphet Kotto is warning De Niro off the case. Kotto says the FBI wants De Niro's quarry for itself.
I've been working on this Jimmy Serrano thing for about 6 years. Mardukas is my shot. I'm going to bring him into federal court. And I don't want any third-rate renter thug who couldn't cut it as a cop in Chicago bringing him to L.A. on some bullshit local charge.
The man they both want to get their hands on is a quiet accountant played by Charles Grodin. He has embezzled $15 million from a Las Vegas mafia boss, played by Dennis Farina, who wants his goons to kill him before the FBI or De Niro can do their job.
I thought you told me this guy was going to be on the plane.
That's the information we got, Jimmy.
That's the information we got. I'm going to tell you something. I want this guy taken out, and I want him taken out fast. You and that other dummy better start getting more personally involved in your work, or I'm going to stab you through the heart with a pencil. Do you understand me?
After De Niro captures Grodin in New York, it brings him back cross-country by bus, leading to a shootout in Chicago. The best parts of the movie come as the two men talk to each other during that long journey, getting to know one another. De Niro says he wants to use his reward to open a coffee shop. Grodin, the accountant, has advice on that subject.
I have to tell you, a restaurant is a very tricky investment. More than half of them go under within the first 6 months. If I were your accountant, I'd have to strongly advise you against it.
You would, huh? Well, you're not my accountant.
No, I mean, if I were your accountant...
I told you. I took you out here...
No, I'm just saying that it's a very, very tricky business, and if I were your accountant, I would really strongly have to advise you against it as an accountant.
You're not my accountant.
I realize I'm not your accountant. saying if I were your accountant.
And throughout the movie, there are moments when those two actors are held on the screen talking to each other, and it's just like, you just want to see the movie again because they're so good together. It's that relationship between De Niro and Grodin that's really at the heart of this movie. And I was surprised by how much depth and subtlety they found in their characters in what might seem like just another action movie if you only describe the plot. Looking at those two actors working together is a revelation. It's like opening a textbook on how to act in a movie, and they both have a lot of important moments where they don't say anything.
Right,
their eyes do the talking. Their reaction does the talking, and a subtle reaction, too. The story of Midnight Run is basically a formula, but the result is completely original and surprisingly touching.
Yes, I found it, too. You know, there was a film called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, in which John Candy and Steve Martin had a similar kind of relationship. But this is, that's sort of now, you give that one a B, maybe. This is A+ material in the same way of two different kinds of guys going off on a journey through different planes, trains, and automobiles, as it turns out, and having a far more deeper relationship, fully actualized. In addition, it's also thrilling. I was very interested if they were going to go off the deep end and make it too much of a personal story, but then they managed to get back and make it exciting. Then they make it funny. Then they make it warm-hearted. Script by George Gallo, who did a wonderful film called Wise Guys that we both liked, directed by Brian De Palma. Good writing, wonderful acting. I love the film, too.
And good direction, too, by Martin Brest. In fact, what you see here is the fact that any kind of formula can be redeemed, essentially, just by the way it's done, because the idea of two opposites being basically handcuffed together while going across the country is not fresh at all, and yet this movie doesn't have a single incident that's stale.
No, I thought that they were just great. Coming up next, Eric Rohmer's Boyfriends and Girlfriends, the bittersweet comedy of two young couples with roving eyes. And also Bruce Willis stars as a cop trying to save hostages trapped in a high-rise in the thriller Die Hard.
Listen, man, I'm starting to get a bad feeling up here.
Its English title is Boyfriends and Girlfriends, and it was written and directed by the extremely clever French director Eric Rohmer, who has made a series of movies called Comedies and Proverbs. And in this case, the proverb that he's making a film about is called The Friends of My Friends Are My Friends. Are they? That's what the movie's about. We see that statement tested after two French girls begin a silent battle over a couple of young men. Problems begin when one of the girls has a one-night stand with the other girl's boyfriend.
Tu sais, j'étais très bien avec toi, mieux que j'ai jamais été avec personne.
Ne soyons pas idiots, continuons.
Tu penses pas ce que tu dis. J'étais une remplaçante pour toi. Et t'as été un remplaçant.
T'es folle ou quoi?
Bon, on va pas gâcher ce souvenir. Ce sera notre secret.
As for the girl being cheated upon, well, she's being unfaithful too, developing a relationship with another man.
Tu veux, on se retrouve au restaurant? Aux Olympiades ou au Columbia?
Ah non,
hein?
je risquerais de tomber sur Blanche.
Et alors?
Bah, écoute, si elle nous voit ensemble, elle va tomber raide morte. Tu te souviens de vendredi?
Bah oui, bah ce jour-là, elle a compris. Et pour nous deux, elle finira bien par la prendre.
Ouais, mais pas brutalement comme ça. Quand on dit les choses, c'est moins impressionnant quand on les voit.
Ouais, enfin, ça dépend comment on les dit.
The thrust of this whole movie is to portray with humor and empathy the tortures that people put themselves through when a little honesty might make things a whole lot easier. It's sort of a lighthearted approach to the same subject Woody Allen tackled in his last film called September. The difference here is that Eric Rohmer is using young people, and he is able to make their problems seem as important and as universal as those of adults. In fact, the intellectual point really being made is that we see how early deceptions become a way of life for people. It's a good film. Not one of Rohmer's best, because he's a great director, but a good one nonetheless.
Well, I don't think the people are all that young. They're all in their mid to late 20s, and one of them, for example, the youngest looking girl is actually a civic official. So these are adults, Gene. They're just young adults. And when you say, and this is why Rohmer is interesting, because he makes you debate these questions, you say a little honesty would have helped.
Yes.
But I don't think so, because I don't think that in relationships, just to say exactly how you feel, especially at the beginning, is something that people can do, because they have to know how the other person feels, because before they know, they can risk being honest.
Well, that's the problem,
and this is what the whole movie is about. The girl likes one guy. Then she finds out he doesn't like her. Then she finds out the other guy likes her, so then she likes him. And so often in relationships, that's it. Who do you like? you like the people who like you.
Well, you're talking about the tension that he creates with people. Now, they are younger people. That's what my point is in making it. And typically, this is done with older people. And we see this, you know, we've seen comedies and American comedies about young people having bad relationships. This is handled with so much more intelligence and simplicity than the most American films. That's what I enjoy.
always has so much insight into human nature. I can remember when I was in high school, that's a long time ago,
Yes.
when I was 14 years old, a girl wanted to break up with me. And you know what she told me? She said, she likes you. And the moment that I heard that, I just turned away to the one who did like me, you see, because I was such a pushover for the fact that I was being accepted. I think there's something of that in everybody at every age, that one of the most amazingly attractive things about a woman, Gene, is the fact that she likes you.
Well,
that makes her attractive.
Well,
shows what good sense she has.
Yes, I can't argue with that. Can't argue with that at all. I don't know what that has to do with the movie, except that we now know what happened to Roger at 14. Coming up next, Die Hard, with Bruce Willis up against a gang of crazy terrorists who have occupied a skyscraper.
And it stars Bruce Willis as an off-duty policeman who attends an office party in a Los Angeles skyscraper and is overlooked when terrorists occupy the building and round up all of the other people. Hiding out on a floor that's still under construction, he wages a one-man war against the bad guys and maintains radio contact with Reginald Vell Johnson as a cop down on the ground.
I want you to find my wife. Don't ask me how. By then you'll know how. I want you to tell her something. I want you to tell her that, tell her it took me a while to figure out what a jerk I've been.
The movie is filled with wall-to-wall action, a lot of it based on the inability of the LA cops to believe that Willis himself is really a cop and not a tricky terrorist.
Blow the roof.
A car's up there!
Blow the roof!
I promise I will never
Even think about going up in a tall building again. God, please don't let me die.
And you got just a glimpse there of the guy in the beard. That's Alan Rickman, who plays the villain and who's really the most interesting character in the movie, kind of an intellectual guy with delusions of superiority. Die Hard has a lot of action scenes like the one on the roof. So many of them you're amazed the skyscraper doesn't turn into the towering inferno. They're dropping explosives down the elevator shaft and whole floors are being blown apart. But you can also see there, I think, one of the big weaknesses of the movie, and that's the idiotic behavior of the Los Angeles Police Department. There was one character in this movie, a deputy chief, whose actions are so stupid and so unmotivated and wrong-headed that finally he just brings the movie to a stop every time he opens his mouth. Bad writing. He always says the wrong thing. He understands nothing. And with a movie like this, once you start picking out the loopholes, and there are a lot of them, it doesn't matter how good the stunts or the special effects are, or even how good Bruce Willis is. You just can't stay interested.
I did stay interested because I saw this as really a mano-a-mano between Bruce Willis, who I think is very good in the film, and Alan Rickman, who is really quite devilish and quite sinister and threatening. And I also like the fact that it is held in the skyscraper, so there is some claustrophobia involving this seeming terrorist attack. There's also a bi-play relationship between Willis and his his former wife, and they want to get that going. She's one of the people that's being captured. But basically, I thought of two guys trapped in a tower trying to fight it out, and I bought the film.
Well, what about all the cops on the ground? What about this deputy chief?
But they stay away from them. They stay away from him.
Willis is brought down to the ground,
yes,
which is a miracle considering that all of the elevator shafts have been dynamited.
I followed him all the way through.
The cop is standing there saying, we're going to bill you for all the damage you've caused.
There are always...
You want to groan at things
There
like
are idiotic cops in the Dirty Harry movies, too, and you laugh at them. Come on, because Harry's smarter.
This is not an idiotic cop. This is idiotic writing to make a cop like this, when it would have been better if he just pushed the action forward instead of constantly being wrong-headed.
One supporting character, two very interesting lead characters. I like the movie. Now let's recap our reactions to the movies on this show. 2 thumbs up for the Deadpool, the best Dirty Harry movie since the first one. 2 thumbs down, way down, for the idiotic thriller Phantasm II. 2 thumbs up for Midnight Run, a tricky, warm-hearted, and funny thriller starring Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. 2 thumbs up for L'Ami de Mon Ami, also being called Boyfriends and Girlfriends, about the tortures of young love. And a split vote on the thriller Die Hard. I like the whole movie a lot better than he did. So Die Hard I recommend, but also the Dirty Harry picture of the Deadpool, that's just wonderful.
And Midnight Run. And you know, we did a show not long ago on overlooked stars, and one of the stars we felt did not get enough attention was Charles Grodin.
Yeah.
In this movie, he goes one-on-one with Robert De Niro, than whom there is nobody better, and it is a tie. I mean, and the fact that he has the more laid-back character makes it even more of an acting drama.
Well, it's just wonderful. And again, I think the point you mentioned about there being silence, acting with silence, if you want to study that, watch Midnight Run.
That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including Big Top Pee-wee, where the circus comes to Pee-wee Herman, and A Fish Called Wanda, a caper movie starring Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Kline, and half of the Monty Python gang. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Raisinets and Goobers are playing everywhere, starring plump, juicy raisins and great golden peanuts. Both now feature creamy Nestle milk chocolate. Sony videotapes. For taping your favorite movies, trust Sony Dynamicron ES. Whatever your videotape needs, there's only one name to play back: Sony. Edge Shaving Gel, the 6th lubricant defense against razor irritation. Tap and Sure Cook Space Saver Microwave is perfect for kitchens where space is at a premium. Tap and Touch solid state controls, automatic temperature probe, and wood grain decor furnished by Tappan.